Boker Tov, today's daf is daf Samach in Baba Kama. As we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael on a Sunnah Matzor V'Shivya. We'll meet B'Shah Tova on the bris today, Mirz Hashem.
Mirz Hashem, thank you.
So we're at the about 5 lines down on the page Toshma. What are we discussing? Rav had said an interesting thing. Rav said something similar to what Rabba said. Rabba said a couple of days ago that Yush by itself should work, but he's not sure if it's the Rice or Rabbanan, but Yush should work. And Rabbi Yosef said, no, Yush Kadi, Yush by itself doesn't work. Rav said the same thing yesterday. At the end of yesterday's daf, Rav said that if a Ganav steals from Ganav, we'll call him Ganav number 1. And then you have Ganav number 2 who stole from Ganav number 1. The Mishnah said he doesn't pay kefil. So Rav said that's only if the owner, the nigzal, the owner of the item who was stolen from, did not have yish. He didn't renounce it. He didn't give up. But if he gave up on the item, so that when Ganav number 1 stole it, he acquired it, then there is no kefil for Ganav number 2. Why? It says, I'm sorry, the other way around. When do we say that if a Ganav, if the second Ganav number 2 stole it, he doesn't pay kefil because it says Gunav Mibesa Ish, not from the Ganav? That's only if the original owner didn't give up. But listen carefully, if the owner gave up on it, then the first Ganav acquired it, it's his. So when the second Ganav stole it from the first Ganav, he also pays kefil. That's what Rav says. Yish alone is enough. Amar Rav at the end of yesterday's 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Amar Lo Shana Elifnei Yish. Aval Yish Kanu Ganav Rishon. Beganav Sheni Misham Tashlim Kefil Ganav Rishon. So Rav Sheish said, well, I think Rav was a little bit sleepy when he said that, because Rabbi Kiva said that why does the Torah say that you pay dollar to hay? What's the reason for that? Knas, because you're rooted in sin. Well, rooted in sin means that it's that the thing took effect. That the sale, or if you sold it or you shechted, if you shechted it, obviously it took effect. You can't take back a slaughtering. But if you sold it, it would take effect. Now, why would it take effect? If it's before Yush, is there anybody who says that it would work? It doesn't work. Just changing was just the fact that he took it from one place to another. If the Ganav sold it, he's talking about, remember, the Ganav could either, if the Ganav, they were talking about where the Ganav stole it, Ganav number 1, and he sold it. Well, if there's no yish over there, just the fact that he sold it to number 2, would that make it permanent? That's not the permanent, like it can't go back. Elamai must be speaking about where he was miyayish. So and if he's talking about yish kani, now if number 1 was miyayish, again, the whole idea here is we're saying, look, a Ganav stole something, he has to pay kefil if he's caught, right? Okay. If he sold it or slaughtered it, pays dal the hay. Okay, that's as long as it belongs to the original owner. But if the Ganav acquired it, and according to Rabbi, he acquires it with Yish alone, Yish already acquires it. Well, it's his. Now it's mine. I could do what I want with it. I'm a bad boy. I have to pay kefil if they caught me and all that, right? And certainly if the animal's not here anymore, I sold it or I slaughtered it. But when I sold it or slaughtered it, I slaughtered my own. Why would I pay dal hay? Dal hay is only if I sold or slaughtered the nigzals, the person that I stole it from, the owner. So that's the kasha. So the Gemara said, no, like Rav was going to say later on, it's not necessarily that the sale took effect. It just means because the reason you pay dal hay is because you repeated your sin. Not only did you steal it, but you sold it, you're a double sinner. Not because of that, but the truth is we're speaking about before Yush. But the owner hasn't given up. That's why you pay dal hay. If, according to Rav's point is that Yush alone changes it. Now let's understand something. We said that Shinui for sure helps. So if I stole something and I slaughtered it, right? Even if the owner didn't give up, but there was a Shinui Maisa over here. So that for sure I acquired it at that point. But before I slaughtered it, as I was about to slaughter it, for slaughtering, I'm chayiv dal b'hei. That's according to everybody. You changed it. But the question is, Yish alone. That's we're going to have that discussion later on too. What's the status when I sell it or I stole something and I sell it or slaughter it? What's the status of ownership? It doesn't belong to the original owner. Yeah, that's why I have to sell it. That's why I'm chayiv, because it belongs to him. But if it belongs to me now, then there's no dal b'hei. That's the point we're asking on Rav. So Rav's point is in all these cases, that you say you're chayav dal v'hei, it's before years. The owner hasn't given up, because if the owner's given up, then why would you pay him dal v'hei? It's not his anymore. That's the point. That's Rob's point. Rob's saying is that all these cases that we're going to show that you have to pay dal v'hei is where the owner has not given up on it. If he's given up on it, even though there was no she didn't make a change to it, didn't slaughter it, he hasn't given up on it, then if he's given up on it, it's not his anymore. It's also all these cases where you have that is only if he hasn't given up on it. Tashma, and now we're going to bring another proof against Rob. Again, the Bryce says like this. It says in the pasuk, if you slaughter it or you sell it, just like tficha is not reversible. Once you slaughter it, you can't take it back. We're talking also where it's sold, it's also where it can't be taken back, meaning it's the sale is final. Amos, when are we speaking about? When did the sale take place? Even if it's before years, before the owner gave up. Why doesn't it go back? If I sold it, if I stole your item, I stole your animal, and I sold it to Bill. Bill is the purchaser. We'll call him the purchaser, Bill. And I sold to Bill. And now they found out about it. They caught me. They have, cameras, and they saw that I took it and I sold it to Bill. We'll go get it back from Bill. The sale goes back. The sale is meaningless, right? I'd have to give him his money back, etc. So if we're speaking about, so what do we mean? He says, if slaughtered or sold it, just like slaughtering is final. Same thing with mechira. Now, when we talk about if it's before yesh, why doesn't it go back? You can go back on it. As soon as I found out about it, they'll catch me. We'll get it back from Bill. Yesh must be speaking about after the owner gave up. If that means that I, who stole it, I'm the ganef. I stole it from the owner. And if he was biyayish, and according to Rav, that means that I own it now. Why would I pay dal v'hei? You say you have to pay dal v'hei. If it's speaking about 4 years, why isn't the sale final? Before years, why is the sale final? You can get it back. If it's before years, she hasn't given up on it. I can get it back from Bill. Elamai, it's after years. After years, if years alone is kona, why would I pay dal v'hei for selling it? I sold my own now. The answer is going to Rav Nachman, probably shikna shloshim yom. Like Rav Nachman's going to give an answer and explain this brisa later on. He doesn't really mean that the sale has to be final. Doesn't mean just like slaughtering is final, it's not reversible the same way sales are final. Just means that it's a regular sale. It's not a rental. Shloshim yom. You sell something for 30 days. Basically, it's a rental. You're good for 30 days. That's what we mean. That it has to be a sale, a final sale. I'm selling it. Yes, it could be recovered. Really, it's speaking about before years. It's before years, because after years, it belongs to the ganef, and he wouldn't pay dal v'hei because I'm slaughtering or selling my own. We're speaking of before years. But it's before years. Why isn't it reversible? And it's reversible when we say that that macharo has to be like just like slaughtering is final. The same thing with sale. We don't mean that the sale is final, that it's not reversible. It means that it's a regular sale. It's not a rental. Meisvei. We're at the first of the wide lines now. Ganav uba achar v'ganav. Now we're going to have 3 cases in this bride, so listen carefully. Ganav number 1. Ganav number 1 came above. Ganav. Ganav number 2 stole it from Ganav number 1. What's the deal when they catch him? Because he burgled it, right? The second guy only pays Karen. Why? Because the Ganav is Beisa Ish, not from the Ganav, right? So if you steal it from the Ganav, you don't pay Kefil. You don't pay Kefil. Okay. Are we speaking of before years or after years? We'll see. That's the first case. We have Ganav number 1, Ganav number 2. Ganav number 1 pays Kefil, Ganav number 2 pays Karen. Next case, Ganav u'mocher. Ganav number 1 sold it to Bill. Uba'acher v'ganvo, and then somebody stole it. Ganav number 2 stole it from Bill. What would you say there? So Rishon Misham Tashlam Yav Chamisha. Ganav number 1 pays 4 and 5. Why? Why does he pay dal v'hei? Because he stole it and he sold it. Right? He sold it to Bill. Okay. Ba'asheni Misham Tashlam Kefil. The second Ganav pays Kefil. Why? Who does he pay Kefil to? To Bill, because he sold it from Bill. The second guy stole it from Bill. He would pay Kefil. That's the second case. Third case, Ganav v'tabach. Let's say the first Ganav stole it, and it wasn't stolen from him, and he didn't sell it. He slaughtered it. And now another person came and stole the slaughtered animal. The first guy pays dal v'hei because he stole it and slaughtered it. The second guy only pays Keren. Now, why would that be? if he slaughtered it, if Ganav one slaughtered it, he owns it now. The second Ganav came and stole from him. He only pays Karen. Why is that? We'll see. That's a problem. So we have three cases here. The first one, Ganav v'Ganav. The second one, Ganav v'Machar v'Ganav. The third one, Ganav v'Tavach v'Ganav. We'll see that. Tanimiya, but the middle case was what? Tanimiya, yes, the middle case was Ganav v'Machar. I stole it and sold it to Bill. Bachar v'Ganvo. Another guy came and stole it from Bill. Arish Misham Tashlomi Dalvei. The first Ganav pays Dalvei. Why? Because he stole it and sold it. Vashen Misham Tashlomi Kefil. The second guy pays Kefil to Bill. Amos. When did this take place? If he sold it before Yish, Shani Amali Mishalim Tashlume Kefil. Why would the second guy place Kefil if there hasn't been Yish here? Why would the second guy pay Kefil? The first guy stole it and sold it to Bill. Now another guy came and stole it from Bill. Okay, does Bill own it? If it's before Yish, why would the second guy pay Kefil to Bill? Shinui was just below Yish. All you have here is a change of possession. Shina was just a change of possession. Now it's in Bill's possession. There's no Yish. There is no Shinui Masa. What makes it Bill's? Why would he have to pay Bill double for stealing from Bill? Bill doesn't own it. That's the question over here, right? So he said, the second guy pays. Here, and Rashi tells us that. Let's see if you have a Rashi on the second case. We don't have it, right? We don't have a second. There's no Rashi on this. Sheni Shalom Ela Karen. That's on the third case. Okay, but the point over here is, why would the second guy pay Kefil, the second Ganav, when he stole it from the purchaser Bill? Why would he pay? Bill doesn't own it. That's like stealing from the Ganav. The only why it says over here, so he says pays Kefil. Why? Shina was just below Shina's equal amount. Elop Shita Lachiyish. The answer is the original owner has given up on it. And now, how does Bill own it? Because there's Yish and Shina Rishus. There's Yish and Shina Rishus. There's Yish. The first owner has given up, and now it's changed possession. So we call that Elop Shita Lachiyish. If Yish is Kona, wait a minute. If the first guy gave up on it, that means that the first Ganav acquired it, right? Because Yish alone is Kona, according to Rav. We're asking Kash on Rav. Why would the first guy pay? Why would the first guy pay Dal V'Hei? The day was up. He sold his own. In the second case, what happened? Guy stole it. Thief number one stole it. He sold it to Bill. So we say he's Chayv Dal V'Hei because he stole it and he sold it. Okay. And then a second Ganav came and stole it from Bill. The second guy pays Kefil. Why does he pay Kefil? Does Bill own it? If it's before Yish, he doesn't own it. Oh, it's after Yish. So Bill owns it. But if it's after Yish, why would the first Ganav have to pay Dal V'Hei? If the owner gave up on it, and therefore, according to Rav, it's no longer the owner's. So when the first Ganav sold it to Bill, he sold his own. He didn't sell the owner's. That's one kasha. The Sudik Tani Reisha, what was the first case? Ganav stole it, and the second guy stole from the first guy. Rishim Sham Tashlam Kef, the first guy pays Kef. Bashani and Misham El Karen, only pays Karen. If they Lach Yish come, if you're talking about after Yish, Isak that Yish kind of Yish works. Shani Mine and Misham Karen. Why does the second guy only pay Karen? If the first guy stole it and there was Yish, okay, that means, and according to Rav, Yish alone. This is Rav Shita, not the way we hold. Rav holds Yish alone makes him acquire it. So that means it's the thief's now. Now the thief is the new owner. So when the second thief stole from the first thief, he should also pay Kefil. Guna Beiseish, we say Guna Beiseish, as both stealing from the Ganav, is if it doesn't belong to the Ganav, but here it belongs to the Ganav. Elav Shmami, no Yish lo Kani. So it's a Kasha on Rav, the Kasha la Rav. Yish, you see, Yish is not Kani, because if Yish is Kona, in the very first case, the second guy should pay Kefil. The second thief should pay Kefil because it would belong to the first guy. And in the second case, why should the first Ganav pay Dal V'Hei? He sold his own. He didn't sell the owner's. Amarava v'tizbra yaskakasha v'omatartos. Does this brisa make any sense? Is it correct at all? Tony say for the saviors. Let's go look at the last case. Ganav v'tavach. If I stole it and I slaughtered it, and that guy came and stole it. Rishim sham tashlam yabrachish. The first guy pays alve because he stole it and he slaughtered it. The sheni and the misham guy pays. The second guy pays Karen. Why would he pay Karen? Like we had a couple times before already. If you slaughtered it, it's for sure yours now. When you were about to slaughter it, you stole it and you slaughtered it. At the time you slaughtered it, it still belonged to the owner, let's say, and therefore you chayv dal v'hei. But after I slaughtered it, it's dead, right? Now we've got steak over here. And the Ganav came and stole my steak. Why should he be put from paying dalvei? He's a thief. He should pay dalvei. So this price doesn't make sense. Olam kulifni yish. Forget all that. Really, the whole Mishnah speaking of the whole price speak for yish. So it's not a kasha on Rav. That's why you have to pay dalvei. Because Rav says once there's yish, you own it. There's no dalvei. If you own it, you're shechting your own. You're selling your own. The whole price speaking for yish. We're going to change the words. We're going to switch the sefer to the last case to the second case, the second case to the third case. This is how you have to learn the brisa. If one guy stole it, thief number one, and he sold it, that's the second case. After he stole it, he sold it. And then another guy came and stole it from Bill, from the purchaser, because it was before Yish. So the first Ganav pays Dalvei to the owner. The second guy only pays Karen. Why? Because it's before Yish. And therefore, who owns it? The original owner. So when you stole it from Bill, it wasn't Bill's, it was the original owner. This is like the Lokech, the Bill is like the Ganav too. The Shina Rishus below Yish, Lokani. Because all you've had here is Shina Rishus. You've just changed possession. It's in Bill's possession. There's no Yish. The third case, Ganav Tavach. So now we're saying that in the second case, the second thief doesn't pay kefil, pays nothing, just pays the keren, returns the principal. Ganav Tavach, the third case, where you stole it and you slaughtered it, and now another guy came, second thief came and stole the steak. The second guy pays kefil. Why? The kanya b'shinin ma'isa, because the first Ganav acquired it by slaughtering it. Yes, at the time that he slaughtered it, it still belonged to the owner. So he pays Dal V'Hei. The first Ganav pays Dal V'Hei. Then somebody came and stole the steak from his freezer. He put it in the freezer. Somebody came and some people leave their money in the freezer, so they think the Ganav won't find it. But he came, so he's looking for the money, and he stole the steak. When he stole the steak, he has to pay kefil because it belonged now to the first Ganav. The kind of Shini Maisa, because he acquired it, but with the Shini Maisa. That's the third case. Okay. We're not done though yet. So that's one answer. What about the first case? Ganav uba acher v'ganva rishim sham tashlim kefah she'enim mishalim lekeren. That makes sense, right? Because in there was no yish yet. So that's how Rav will answer this whole brisa system for yish. Or Papa says, you don't have to switch around the second and third cases. Don't switch the runs around. Sefer b'shamei. You know why in the third case we say that when you stole it and you slaughtered it, right? And then somebody came and stole your slaughtered item, he only pays Karen according to the way the brisa read originally. And Vasheni, what do we say? The Shani, Karen. Why? Because he holds that Shini is not Shini Maisa doesn't work. We said Shini Maisa, you're calling with Shini Maisa. Yes, according to Beis Hillel, and everybody was like Beis Hillel, but not according to Beis Shammai. So the third case is going like Beis Shammai. But what about the Reisha Messiah? You're saying that no, Lolam, we're speaking about where it's after Yish. Well, according to if it's after Yish, if we're speaking with Yish, so we're still back to the original kasha from the Reisha and Messiah. If it's after Yish, in the first case, why does the second guy only pay Karen? He should pay kefil. And in the second case, why does the first Ganav pay Dal V'Hei if there's Yish? That means that he sold his own. He didn't sell the owner's. It's all speaking up before Yish. It's all before Yish. Here's what happened. He was Miyayish. The owner was Miyayish, but he wasn't Miyayish when it was on the Ganav's hands. He was only Miyayish in the Lokech's hands. He only gave up after it was already sold. And then the bill acquires it. And that's why in the second case, what do we say in the second case? The first Ganav pays Dal V'Hei. The second guy pays, right? The second of why does he pay kefil? Why does he pay kefil? Because there was Yish and Shina Rishus. Again, the second case is the Ganav stole it. He sold it to Bill. And then somebody stole it from Bill, pays Bill double. Why does he pay Bill double? Because when it was in Bill's Rishus, the owner gave up. So now there's Yish and Shina Rishus. That's why he pays double. But Lomishim did be in Yish machine, which is the truth. You don't need both. According to Rav, Yish alone is good. LFP would be Yish L'churi also Kani. But Gabi L'churi Nami Kani Gabi Ganav. If it's in the hands of the Ganav, he also is good. El L'dol Mishkachas the Mishami Tavayu Ganav Rishon Began Shin El Bahaki. Here's his point. Let's look at this case now. We're talking about the first case. Let's look at the first case. Why? Because it's before Yish. The first case is very simple. Before Yish, the first guy pays kefil, and another guy came and stole it from him. He only pays Karen. It's before Yish. In the second case, that's the complicated. Look at the second case again. You stole it. The first guy stole it, and he sold it to Bill. And then somebody came and stole it from Bill. So we're saying the first guy pays Dal Bahei before Yish. The second guy pays kefil. Why would he pay kefil? If it's before Yish, all there is Shinur Shus. Why he stole it from Bill? The answer is he gave up on it. There was Yish when it was in the Shus of Bill. So why do you have to have Yish in the Shus of Bill? It could have been Yish in the hands of the Ganaf also, according to Rav. Any Yish helps. But this is the only way you come out that both the first Ganaf and the second Ganaf are fined, besides returning the Karen. Why? Because if the Yish was in the hands of the first Ganav, right? First was in the hands of the first Ganav. So, and according to Rav, Yish alone makes it work. If he was Yish the first group, why would he pay Dal Bahei? He doesn't pay Dal Bahei because when he sold it, it was his. Right? We're trying to say, look at the second case again. Thief number one stole it. He sold it to Bill. Thief number two stole it from Bill. So thief number one pays Dal Bahei. Thief number two pays kefil. Now, if he gave, according to Rav, not the way we all, according to Rav, that Yish alone makes you acquire it. If he was miyayish in the hands of the Ganav, why would he pay Dal Bahei? He sold it. The Ganav sold his own. And the Ganav number one, the Ganav sold his own. So therefore, it must. And if there was no Yish at all, why would he pay? Why would the second Ganav pay double to Bill? It still belongs to the first owner. It doesn't belong to Bill. The answer is that it was miyayish in the hands of Bill. He wasn't miyayish while it was in the hands of the Ganav. If he was miyayish in the hands of the Ganav, they would also make the Ganav acquire. But we're trying to show a case where do you have that the first Ganav pays Dal Bahei, he gets fined, and the second Ganav also gets fined. That only works when he was miyayish in the hands of Bill. So when the thief number one stole it and sold it, it still belonged to the original owner. So he pays Dal Bahei. Then he sold it to Bill. At which point Bill doesn't own it because all you have is Shina Rishus. While Bill had it, the first owner was miyayish. Now Bill acquires it, and when the second Ganav steals it from Bill, he pays kefil. That's how it works out according to Rav. This is all according to Rav. We're trying to say because Rav says Yish alone works. We don't hold that way, but Rav holds Yish alone works. Rav said this that we say in the Mishnah that if a second guy stole it from the first Ganav, and then the second Ganav stole it from him, second Ganav only pays Karen. That's only Rav says if there was no Yish. But if the owner was miyayish when it was in the hands of the first Ganav, then the first Ganav acquires it, and the second Ganav was stolen from him would also pay kefil because he's stealing it out from the new owner. That's good question. So some say that's a good question. We're gonna see an answer to that in a few minutes. Let's see. If the guy says he's miyayish, the standard lashon is Vai the avdin below chazan. When he said I'm miyayish, it's clear that he's miyayish. The question is, are miyayish on stam? Do you assume stam yish? We'll talk about that case. Gemara's going to give that case like that. So that answers Rav. Itmar. Now we're not really done with those shita. This shita of Rav, he sort of went like Rav, but he was very clear. Rav said very clearly that yish alone is right. Itmar. Amocha lifnei yish. If you sell it before yish, isn't that the normal way to do it? Well, Rav Nachman says chayiv. You're chayiv Dal Bahei. Sheish Samar Potter. Sheish says you're Potter. If you sold it before with miyayit first, why? Nachman chayiv. It says if you sold it. It says you stole it and you sold it, you pay Dal Bahei. Doesn't talk about yish, makes no difference. Sheish Samar Potter. Chiyuv elach yish. The chiyuv is only after yish. Why the hanumasa? You see, if I stole it and there was no yish, says Rav Sheshis, so these first owner still owns it. If I sold it now, is that a final sale? No. If we find the guy and find the ganaf and find the item, it goes back. So it didn't help. The meisim didn't help, and therefore Rav Sheshis says it only works. When am I chayiv Dal Bahei according to Rav Sheshis? Only after yish. because he can get it back, it's reversible. It's not chayiv, just like slaughtering. Just like slaughtering, it's final. You can't take back the slaughtering once you've slaughtered the animal. You can't get them back. The same way the sale has to be final sale. So Rav Shesha says that when are you chayiv dal b'hei? Only after Yush. Only after Yush. Amar Shesha Smarami to learn how to get this. The Tanya Amar Bekiva. We had this yesterday. The end of yesterday's. Why did the Torah say that we give you this big fine that if you slaughtered or sold it, you pay dal b'hei? They should mishtarish b'chet because you're rooted in sin, meaning that the sale is final. That it's chazik b'chet shekanu b'hana because you've accomplished something. Amos, when have you accomplished something? Why is it final? Maybe you'll get it back. Who says, okay, I sold it, we'll get back. We'll mochel everybody gives it back. No 125%. Just return the item and that's it. After Yish, and I sold it, Yish and Shina Rishus helps. That's what we said before. Rashi says, the third line of Rashi on the top of this page says, the Hashta Kani Lokech, V'taki Yish V'Shina Rishus. That works. Yish. Oh, so let's speak on after Yish. So now what do we have here? That Rav Nachman says makes no difference when you sold it. Before Yish or after Yish, the Torah says if you sold it, you're chayiv dal b'hei. Rav Shesha says no, you're only chayiv after Yish. What about Rav? Rav will say here like Rav Nachman that it works before Yish. In fact, it's only before Yish according to Rav, right? Rav says when you chayiv dal b'hei, only before Yish because after Yish it's yours. You're slaughtering or selling your own. Amarava. So Amarava, but the point is. This is like Rav Shesha has a good proof. He says no, it's only if it works because it's got to be something that's rooted that takes effect. If it's before Yish, it hasn't really taken effect. The whole thing is reversible. I can get it back from Bill and return everything, and that's it. I'll pay Dal V'Hei, but I don't have to. I'll pay Kefel, but it's rooted. But the Dal V'Hei is only if it's like a final sale. So it's only when it's after Yish. Amarava says no. It doesn't mean that it's rooted in sin, that it's not reversible. It just means that you've done it twice, that you've done sin twice. Shishar doesn't mean that it's not reversed, that it's irreversible. It means that you've doubled your sin. Number one, you stole it. Then on top of that, you compounded the sin by selling it or slaughtering it. So there's no stop in there. Tashma umcharo matvicha sheina chazeres. Just like what? Just like slaughtering is not reversible. Amos, when is that? For years you can go back. Again, doesn't mean that it has to be final sale. This price is clear. Not just like tvicha doesn't go back. If it's for years, why isn't it reversible? So after years, it's not reversible because the bill required it with Yiddish and Shina Rishus. So you see the chiyuv is only after Yish, like Rav Shesha. Gemara says no. Rav Nachman will explain this is speaking about when he says doesn't mean that it doesn't go back. It means that it's a regular sale. It's not a sale for 30 days, which is really like a rental. And here Rashi is very clear. Rashi 3 lines from the bottom of the page says the tlasa maroinin, and we have 3 sheets here. Rav says Yish alone is kona. Hilkuf, therefore you're only chayiv dal v'hei if you did dal before Yish, only before Yish. Rav Nachman Shesha says no. Yish alone doesn't work, and therefore lach Yish Yechayev. But here's the machlokes. Rav Nachman says you don't need that the masim should help. Doesn't make it before Yish or after Yish. It works. Whereas Rav Shesha says it only works after Yish because it needs a full mechira. So we have 3 shittas over here. When are you chayev dal v'hei? Rav Nachman says you're chayev dal v'hei if it's before Yish or after Yish. Rav says you're only chayev dal v'hei before Yish. Rav Shesha says you're only chayev dal v'hei after Yish. So Rav Shesha and Rav are argument of kotz as we say. Last line on the page in the Gemara. Rav Blazer also holds that the chiyuv is only after Yish, like Rav Sheshes. Rav Blazer says to answer Michael's question. Rav Blazer was sitting. How can I answer Michael's question? He says, "Teidish estam geneva Yish bal." How do you know? If the guy was miyayish? He says, "You know what? Stam geneva. If it's gone, it's gone. If you come home and the door is open and you're missing your radio." You can give up on it. You can call the police and they'll come out and fill out a report. But do you think they ever find him? No, they don't find him. But they'll fill out the report in triplicate. 1 copy for you, 1 for the office, and 1 for his car. So you'll hit there, but you're not getting it back. In other words, if something was got, what? When they find it, yeah. So So Tedish Stam Geneva Yish Balum. Shari Amar Torah says, how do you know? How do you know that in a Stam Geneva, if you find the theft, you know it's gone, you give up on it, right? Shari Amar Torah says, if you sell it, if you stole something and you slaughtered or sold it, you pay Dal Bay. Maybe the guy wasn't Yayish. Why should you pay Dal Bay? Maybe he wasn't Yayish. Maybe you're going to get it back. That's what Rav Loz's Stam Geneva is Yish Bailam. And therefore, he says, whenever the Torah says Tavachum Mochar, when did you slaughter it or sell it? It's always after Yish because there's immediate Yish. Maybe it means no. Maybe the Torah is saying no, even though it's not Yayish, it's still Yechayv Dalvei. Just like Tvicha Hanamasav, just like Tvicha, your Masim helps immediately. Again, he compares the Tvicha and Mechira that it's like a permanent thing, just like Rav Sheshis did. Just like Tvicha is permanent and is immediate over here, your Masim helps. Same thing Mechira, it's got to be immediate. So therefore, you can assume that there is Yish. Be with Yish, if it's for Yish, Mayahana, what does it help? You can still get it back. So maybe it's speaking about where you heard him saying, "Oh, I give up." Maybe only that works. I can't say that. Just like Tvicha, just like Tvicha takes place immediately, it's done, whether you heard him or not. The same thing with Mechira. It works either way, even if there's no Yish. So therefore, it works immediately because you can assume there's Yish. So he says, but Rav Loz's words alone, it's not because because he says Stam Geneva is Yish Balam. So it's always speaking about after Yish. He says that the Dal V'Hei is after Yish. So he goes like Rav Amalei Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan said, that's not a proof. It's not a proof that you assume that it's always Rav Yochanan Geneva, but after stuff to look at a kidnapping case. Shein Yish Balam. Person doesn't give up on his own. He doesn't give up his body. Rashi says, if you kidnap somebody, you sold him. Person doesn't give up on his own. In other words, person doesn't give up on his own. Oh, I'm going to be a slave forever or whatever. I gave up on my own body, right? There too, right? So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan answered Rabbi Lozer. Rabbi Lozer says that that there's Stam Geneva, that the Stam Geneva involves Yush Bailam, because the Torah says now why? Maybe it wasn't Yash. Must be that there's automatic. You can assume automatically if you find something is stolen, as soon as the guy says stolen, that there's Stam Yish. That's a Shal Yish Shlomidas, right? That gets in the Gemara of Sim Bavati Yish Shlomidas. If you don't know yet that it was stolen, right? When you find out when the door is open and the radio's gone, then you know it was stolen. What happens if you don't know yet? Yish Shlomidas, that Yish or not? Okay, that gets into the complicated issue of Yish, but he says maybe there's no Yish. No, you can't say that. Just like Tvicha, just like here, the Ma'asim help. Mechira also Ma'asim help, and if it's before Yish, Ma'asim wouldn't help. El Ma'asim, you must assume that there's in a Stam case of Geneva, there's Yish. But Rabbi Yochanan said, what do you mean? If you stole somebody's body, you kidnapped them, there's no Yish there, and still you're chayav for Geneva. You're chayav for kidnapping is a capital crime, even though the guy's not miyayish, so you can't prove anything there. Mechlal the savar, yishba chayav. Mechlal the savar, I said mechayav. And you're chayav in that. Mechlal the savar Rabbi Yochanan yish. Right, it's mashma that Rabbi Yochanan holds if yish you're chayav. Right, because he says even if you're not, he says look at the case of Geneva of a nefesh with kidnapping, that there's no yish and you're chayav. So it's mashma Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Nachman that you're chayav on dal v'hei lifnei yish. Some of them lifnei yish chayav, not like Rav Elazar and Rav Sheshis who say only after yish. Right, mashma lifnei yish chayav. Lach yish my. What did Rabbi Yochanan say after yish? What do you hold like Rav Nachman? That you're chayiv dal bay whether it's before or after or only before. So Rabbi Yochanan Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan clearly says you're chayiv shlek shomer potter. Rabbi Yochanan Chayiv chiyuva ben lefnei yish ben lach yish, just like Rabbi Nachman said in Amar Aleph. Torah says if you steal it and you sell it or you slaughter it, you're chayiv whether it's yish or not. You're chayiv dal bay shlek shomer potter. Chiyuva lefnei yishu avalach yish kana v'shalot b'ech shalom macher. Rav Shlekish says exactly like whom? Like Rav. That's what he says. He says the chiyuv is only before yish, right? After yish, right? After yish, lach yish mai. Rabbi Yochanan says you're chayiv either way. Rish Lakish says no, you're potter. Why? The chiyuv is only before yish, like Rav. Again, Rav Shesha says the chiyuv is only after yish. Rav Nachman Yochanan says the chiyuv is dal hay is before or after yish. Rav and Rish Lakish, they come in pairs, right? Rav and Rish Lakish say that you're only chayiv with yish, but after yish, the guy who stole it owns it, and he's shechting or selling his own. Okay, so we have again Rav and Rish Lakish say the chiyuv is only before yish. Rav Nachman and Rabbi Yochanan say the chiyuv is before or after yish. And did I say that right? Yeah. And the yish, right? Yish, he says you're putter, right? And yish, you're putter. He will go like whom? Like Rav Shesha says your potter again. So Rav Shesha will say that it only works when before Yish. Rav Shesha will go like Rav. Am I right about that? Let's see. Rav Shesha doesn't go like Rav. Rav says it only works before. Rav Shesha says it only works after. I'm sorry. Rav Shesha only works after. It only works after. And Rav Nachman and Rav Yochanan say it works before or after, right? Rav Elazar went like Rav Shesha, that it only works after. So Rav Elazar went like Rav Shesha. Rav went like what? What does Rish Lakish hold like? Rav Yochanan, Rish Lakish says, so again, as I said before, Rish Lakish will say like Rav. Rish Lakish goes like Rav, that you only chayiv dal day before Yish, not after Yish. Rabbi Elazar and Rav Shesha said it only works after Yish, and Rav Nachman says, and Rav Yochanan say it works both ways. Ace for Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Now Rabbi Yochanan is asking Rish Lakish again. Rish Lakish goes like Rav, who says that you only pay dal day before Yish, not after Yish. Gone up, listen to this case. You stole it, and then you were makdish it. You gave it to the base of mikdash, and then you slaughtered it. You slaughtered it after you were makdish it. You pay kefil because you stole it from the owner, right? So you pay dollar for you thieved it, you burgled it from the owner. You pay dollar. Why you pay kefil rather? You don't pay dollar. Why? Because at the time you slaughtered it, belonged to Hegdish. Okay, Amos. When was there a yish or not? Elamoth is for yish mikarish. If the original owner was not miyayish, how could I be makdashit? If I stole something from somebody, right? And it still belongs to him. He wasn't miyayish on it. How can I be makdashit? Mikarish. Ish kiyakdish is based on karish of person's makdish his own house, something in his house. Ma based shalaf kol shalot. It's got to be his. I can't be Can I steal your car or your animal and be makdashit? It belongs to you. Ela pshita lachiyish. You must be speaking about it. I stole it. Then what? You were miyayish. And now I own it. Okay. The time of the hikdish, why don't I pay dal day? Because I was makdashit. Since you gave up on, I was makdashit. At the time of the hikdish, since I'm makdashit, there's no dal day on hikdish. Why? Because there's no kefil. Rashi explains it beautifully. Rashi says when you pay kefil, the reyehu, you pay reyehu. When there's no kefil, there's no dal behay. Why? Because if there's no kefil, there's no gimel v'dal. There's only dal behay. Dal behay is including kefil. So if there's no kefil, there's no dal behay either. So there's no kefil if you stole something from Hegdish, there's no kefil. So if there's no kefil, it can't be dal behay now. So therefore, there's anything belongs to Hegdish, it can't be any dal behay. So there's no dal behay. Why? Because when you slaughtered it, it belonged to Hegdish. The Hegdish, when you slaughtered it, you shechted something that belonged to Hegdish. Avalo Hegdish, but if you were makdish it, Tavach, you slaughtered Misham Tashlam Eberchesh, you pay dal behay. But we're speaking about after Yish, because if there's no Yish, how will you makdish it? Right? That it wouldn't work, right? So it must be speaking after Yish, and that's why you could be makdish it. And we're saying it's only you don't pay dal day. Why? Because it belonged to Hektish. You don't pay. What? It's stolen goods, right? But who does it belong to now? If the owner wasn't miyayish on it, didn't give up on it. However, the ownership was, right? We're saying that Rish Lakish holds basically like Rav, that after Yish, there is no Daled Behay, right? Because it doesn't belong to the owner anymore. He gave up on it. So over here, what's the case over here? How could you be makdish if the owner wasn't give up on it? Okay, he gave up on it. And if he gave up on it, that's how you were able to be makdish. And therefore, when you slaughtered the animal, it belonged to Hekdish, and you didn't slaughter his. You're not chayv dal v'hei, right? You're not chayv v'hei. But if it wouldn't belong to Egish, you would be chayv dal v'hei. If you hold Yish Kona like you say Yish Kona, and therefore there's no dal v'hei after Yish. You Reish Lakish was like Rav. Why would you pay dal v'hei? You're saying you don't pay dal v'hei because it belongs to Egish. Let's say you weren't makdish it. The owner just gave up on it, and you own it now, and you slaughtered it. Why would you pay dal v'hei? According to Rav and Rish Lakish, they both say that. This is a kasha on Rav as well, right? That why do you say that Yish alone makes him acquire it? If Yish alone makes him acquire it, he shouldn't pay dal v'hei because he owns it now. He's shechting his own. He's slaughtering his own. No, he wasn't makdish it. It really belonged to. It's before Yish. There was no Yish. How could he be makdish it if it was before Yish? How could the ganav be makdish it if he doesn't own this before Yish? The answer is the ganav wasn't makdish it. The owner was makdish it. Yeah, you stole it from me. I'll tell you what. I'm being makdish it now. It's not even yours. You can't own it. Makdish. Oh, it says can you be makdish something even if it's yours, if it's not in your possession? If you stole, if a guy robbed something and the owner didn't give up, neither one can be makdish. The Goslin can't be makdish because it doesn't belong to him. The Zelafish and Rishuso. And the other one, the owner can't be makdish because it's not in his Rishus. So he holds he can't be makdish Rishus. So how could you give this answer? Rish Lakish is weaseling out of this case and saying, we're trying to prove to Rish Lakish that Yish doesn't work. Because if Yish would work, why would you pay dal v'heir if you wouldn't be makdish it? Right? It's mashvit only because you're makdish it, but otherwise not. Right? And why could you be makdish it? Because it's after Yish. So if it's after Yish, and we're saying if you wouldn't be makdish it, you would pay dal v'heir. If after Yish, why would you pay dal v'heir if it belongs to you? If the owner gave up, the answer is the owner didn't give up. The owner didn't give up. The reason it's hektish over here is because the owner himself was makdish. How could the owner be makdish it? It's not in his possession. Now it was stolen from or robbed from him. Amri, who the Amar Rish Lakish will hold like the tznuin, like the modest people, the Tanan at tznuin. Rashi says that tznuin here are chasidim. What do? What happened was they had a field, and in the fourth year you have to be poded the stuff and take it to Yerushalayim, the Kerem Rabbi, right? What happens was he would be afraid there are people, Jews come around and they steal the stuff. They see stuff in the field. People come by. They take my pomegranates. They take things off the trees. They just take flowers. They take whatever they want. So he says, you know what? He didn't want them to be over in Kerem Rabbi. So what he would do is he would be poded it. He'd be poded it. He says, and he would say, it's doing manichnas samos. They would put the money down here, presumably after the person has stolen the from the Kerem Rabbi. He said, whatever was taken from here, it should be redeemed on this money, and the money will go to Yerushalayim. So what do you say? That Snuin held that even though it's not in his possession anymore. In other words, you say Rav Yochanan says you can't be makdish if it's not in your possession. You can't be makdish if it's not yours for sure. And even if it's yours, but it's not in your possession, you can't be makdish. No, he holds like it's Snuin. They were makdish even though it's not their possession. The guy stole my pomegranates or whatever. I got to take to Yerushalayim. You know what? I'm being machalid on this money, so I could be makdish even something that's not here right now. Okay. So that's what you want to say. He holds like that. Rashi calls these are Hasidim, pious people who don't want anybody else to be nichshel because of their payers. So they say, you know what? It's like you say, I'm after it, or I'm, like if the guy stole something from me, keep it. I don't want you to be punished for that. He holds like that. Okay. Or in the bottom. If that's the case, then the owner owns it again. What's the problem over here? Why would he pay kefil? Say you pay kefil, but you don't pay the dal v'hei because you were makdish it, right? Were makdish it. But there's no kefil over here. If the owner was makdish it, right? And as I said, he took possession of it again. It's like it went back to him. He says, okay, whatever the animal is, I makdish it. So it's his now. What's the problem? What's the kefil? Kefil is only if you find the stuff in the hands of the ganav. Then you have to pay kefil, but otherwise you don't have to pay. It says, no, there was first a judgment first. There was first a court case. They brought the ganav to court, and they said you have to pay kefil. So what do you mean? And then afterwards, the owner was makdish it, and then he shechted and happy dummy. If they told him say tainlo, go pay him. So Myra Hikdish, why do you have to talk? He was makdish it. I feel lodish, even if it was a makdish nami lo l'chayve. Domer of it say tainlo tavachamocha pater. Once there was a court case, and they said what? Okay, listen. Oh, you stole it. You're a ganef. You have to pay in kefil. Case is closed. There's a verdict now. Let's say now he shechted it. You say, oh, if he was makdish it and then he shechted it, you don't pay dalvei. What do you mean? You don't pay dalvei anyway. Once the court determined that it was a thief, okay, it was worth $100, you pay him $200, right? You pay him the kefel, case is closed. Now I went and I shechted. It's like I went and I shechted your animal. I didn't thief it now. I didn't burgle it now. It's yours. The Torah says it's yours. It's returned. You pay kefel, and now I shechted your animal. You don't pay kefel over there. That's a goslan. Damaravet say, listen to the case. Damaravet say tainlo. They said, listen, go pay him. Go pay him. Case is closed. Pay him the $200. Tavachumachar, and then I shefted or I sold it. You're putty. You don't pay dalvei. My time. So once there was a psak din, that's the case. It's final. The thievery that you chayiv dalvei is only if you stole it, and while it was in your possession, you have to pay dalvei. But if it doesn't paskin already, you have to pay the kefil. The case is closed. Now you went and shefted it. Oh, keep it the baskul milsa. But how about the goslin? Now I'm simply a goslin. The goslin and misham tashlim yavrach misha. The Torah, they went to court. The court says, okay, give him back his animal and pay him another $100 for the value of the kefil for the animal. And now I went and I slaughtered it. That's a goslin. Goslin doesn't pay dalvei, only goslin. That's if he said, go pay him. If they said, listen, they're still debating the case. They said, listen, well, if you thieved it from him, I'm making up that word. I don't know. If it's burgled it from him. They didn't say go pay him. They didn't give a final verdict. They just said then you do pay the dalvei because he didn't just listen. Well, based on the case here, it sounds like you have to pay. You'd have to pay dalvei if you shefted. They just said you have to pay, but they didn't give a final verdict. And then he shefted it. Then he would have paid dalvei. My time, he keep it a little paskin milsa. Since they didn't give a final psak din, akati got him. He's still a got him. There's lo tzricha. The amri lechayavat talitmo. They said taka this case. They didn't yet paskin. In other words, the question is if he was makdish it. Why? Because he was makdish even not rishus. So like the case is closed, right? Is the case closed? So why is there kefil over here? The answer is they went to court and the court said you're a ganaf. Remember, ganaf is not when you don't pay kefil if you're moda or if you came on your own. You only came, but there was a court, there was witnesses, etc. And the court paskin, you got to pay double. If you got to pay double, they paskin it, like they gave it back and all that. And now you went and sold it or shefted it without thieving it. You don't pay dalvei. The answer is there was a court case, but it wasn't finalized yet. And since it wasn't finalized, you're still a thief, and you would pay dalvei were it not for the fact that the owner was makdish it. That's why you don't pay dalvei. But if the owner wasn't makdish it and you sold it or something, you would pay dalvei. So therefore, it comes out. And this is all speaking about when. They're all speaking about that he was never miyayish. He was never miyayish because according to Rish Lakish, once they're yish, you don't pay dalvei. Why? Because now you own it and you shefter so you own. So we have Rish Lakish and Rav hold that you only pay dalvei before yish. We have Rav Lazar and Rav Sheshes say you only pay kefil after yish, and we have Rav Nachman and Rav Yochanan who say you pay kefil before or after yish. And that's the end of that piece. Okay, we're up to the 2 dots on Samach Testament Alpha Picture. Tomorrow, Hashem, have a good day, everybody.
It's good.
I did that you have to pay kefil, and then you go and check it.
But you didn't.
Again?
You didn't steal it.
You're stealing.
No, right in court. You didn't. That's not stealing. Stealing. That's robbing, not stealing.
So you don't pay kefil?
You don't pay kefil. Kefil is only if you thieved it. You burgled it. Yeah, burglarized. Say it properly. I don't know.
But you will pay Karen again?
Huh?
Of
course. You're a goslin. You're a goslin. Or if Moshe is the judge, 125%. You have to go through this piece several times.
Yeah.
Believe me.